Monologue about the chief purveyors of fake news in the Destroy Trump media, people that you don't know about. We will expose tonight in a special mini monologue. But first, the Senate Judiciary Committee leaders are now finally opening an investigation into former Attorney General Loretta Lynch's alleged interference with the FBI in their investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. Also tonight, a Hannity investigation into the intense and dangerous hatred now spewing from Hollywood and liberal campuses against our president. We'll cover it all in the special opening monologue. All right, it's about time. We have to commend a group of bipartisan senators for actually doing their job, announcing earlier today they are going to investigate the former Obama Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, for potentially influencing the investigation, obstructing justice as it relates to Hillary Clinton's email server. Now, there are several questions that you, the American people, deserve answers to when it comes to Loretta Lynch. First, we know, remember, last summer, Lynch met on a tarmac with Bill Clinton for about 40 minutes, just days before the former FBI director, James Comey, announced that he was giving Hillary Clinton a free pass, despite the fact that Comey said she was extremely careless with the handling of government information. Reckless disregard, extremely careless. Well, the legal term is gross negligence. It's the same thing. And by the way, number two, James Comey revealed while testifying before Congress, Loretta Lynch very well may have obstructed justice by telling him to call the investigation into Hillary Clinton a matter, which was Hillary Clinton's own campaign way of referring to the investigation. Lynch needs now to be put under oath. She has a lot of explaining to do to you, the American people. And we also know this. Now, by the way, if you need to know if Lynch was acting on her own, we need to know if she was given instructions from others in the Obama administration. This is a massive story. Jay Sekulow will be here tonight with reaction. We promise you we will follow this story closely. And don't forget Sarah Carter's report and John Solomon's report that they said Comey confronted her, Loretta Lynch, with information that maybe she had already decided never to bring an indictment against Hillary, regardless of what the evidence was able to show. Loretta Lynch, the Senate Judiciary Committee has opened now an investigation, a probe into allegations of interference by Lynch into the FBI's investigation of Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server. And by the way, to add to the last segment before we move on, Hillary Clinton tweeted earlier tonight, quote, "Forget death panels. If Republicans pass this bill, they are the death party." Joining us now with reaction, the counsel for the American Chief Counsel for the American Center for Law and Justice, also an attorney for the president, Jay Sekulow, is with us. You know, hey, I've been saying that this is all going to boomerang back. No evidence by anybody of any Russia collusion, 11 months of media lying and conspiracy theories. But it did open up the door that, OK, now we got to look at Loretta. Now we got to look at Hillary. And I would argue Hillary is going to be right behind Loretta Lynch in terms of investigation issues. Thoughts?
Look, we said this a year ago, that this was a significant event, that whole incident at the tarmac with the then Attorney General of the United States and the former President Bill Clinton on the weekend that his wife was being interviewed by the FBI, by the way, not under oath, for issues involving the elimination and mishandling of classified information. The so-called email scandal was much more than an email scandal. It was an illegal enterprise that was going on. But now you've got the Senate Intelligence Committee saying we want answers to questions. And one of those questions, or a series of those questions, focus in on a very, very significant development. And that is, were there memorandums or statements made by the Attorney General to members of the Democratic National Committee stating this: we will not let this investigation of Hillary Clinton go too far. Those assurances have been made. If that proves to be true, and there is a lot of evidence starting to swirl, and now both, by the way, Republicans and Democrats have signed this letter saying they want answers to these questions. This is how an investigation starts. It needs to, and it goes a step further than that, Sean. There's a lot more at play here than just this.
Let me ask one last question. I have been saying that Robert Mueller needs to recuse himself and get out. And he's also hired Hillary Clinton's lawyer and Obama and Clinton donors and Rosenstein's relationship and all this. But here's my question. The president spoke out in his interview with Ainsley this morning, and she's going to join us later in the program. He even sees this as bothersome. Listen to what the president says.
He's very, very good friends with Comey. which is very bothersome. So we'll have to see. I can say that the people that have been hired are all Hillary Clinton supporters. Some of them worked for Hillary Clinton. I mean, the whole thing is ridiculous if you want to know the truth from that standpoint.
This is the most extreme conflict of interest. This is the biggest case of investigative mission creep, if you will, I've ever seen in my life. It is a witch hunt, but yet it keeps going on. And the people that should be investigated, Hillary and Loretta Lynch, we're only just beginning that.
Well, and let me just, first of all, what the president said was absolutely correct. I mean, he said it exactly right. Sure. I mean, you've got this whole, I mean, if the witness is the friend of the prosecutor, how does that all play out? Well, it's not supposed to play out that way. That's number one. Number two, and let me be really direct on this. This leaking of information that is continuing to happen, that is where the most significant issue is here. Why are we okay with leaks coming out of whether it's the Department of Justice, whether it's the State Department, whether it's even the House and Senate Intel committees on information like this? Why is that okay? So I'll tell you what the special counsel needs to do. They need to look and make sure these leaks stop immediately. They have no choice.
Loretta Lynch
an obligation.
Needs to be investigated, and if there's wrongdoing, prosecuted. Former President Obama, the real crimes were committed, in fact, by Hillary Clinton. The real obstructor of justice is the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. The real Russia conspiracy is the Uranium One deal, and another one I'll explain tonight. And the real corrupt collusion is the relationship between the former FBI director, James Comey, and his BFF, hiring every liberal Democrat he can, the special counsel, Robert Mueller. Let's start with Russia election meddling. Now, according to a brand new report, President Obama knew exactly what he was going through and what was going on during the election. He chose, starting in August of 2016, to do nothing. Now, President Trump spoke this morning about the stunning hypocrisy during an interview with Fox and Friends. Take a look.
Well, I just heard today for the first time that Obama knew about Russia a long time before the election, and he did nothing about it. But nobody wants to talk about that. That the CIA gave him information on Russia a long time before they even, before the election. And I hardly see it. It's an amazing thing to me. In other words, the question is, if he had the information, why didn't he do something about it? He should have done something about it. But you don't read that. It's quite sad.
Why did Obama not do anything about this? Now, the president is making an excellent point. And by the way, he's not the only official who's calling out Barack Obama for failing to act. Remember, he had this information in August of 2016. Now the ranking Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee, Congressman Adam Schiff, he's also slamming the former president. Hard to believe, but watch this.
The American people needed to know, and I didn't think it was enough to tell them after the election, but rather, given the seriousness of this, I think the administration needed to call out Russia earlier, needed to act to deter and punish Russia earlier, and I think that was a very serious mistake.
That's correct. We, the people, needed to know. So the real question tonight is, if President Obama knew what Russia was doing back in August of 2016, why didn't he act? Now, remember, Democrats have been claiming the Russia interference, which, for the record, didn't change actual vote tallies, according to every top government official who's testified. But they're saying it was so egregious that it threatened the very foundation of this country. Well, if that's the case, why did Obama stay silent? The answer we now know is simple. According to a report, the president didn't do any investigation because he actually thought Hillary was going to win. In other words, let me translate here. The only reason Russian interference in the story is a big deal is because Donald Trump won. Now, that's what the special counsel needs to be investigating tonight. Real collusion. Obama this time, defending Hillary, colluding so she'd win and not rocking the boat. And by the way, that's why everyone should be freaking out about right now. And they are. Now, we need to know, what did President Obama know? When did he know it? And maybe he could come and clear up some serious questions. After all, it was Obama who promised to be more flexible with Vladimir. Remember this? With Medvedev, I'll have more flexibility after the election.
This is my last election. Yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility. Yeah. I understand. I transmit this information to Vladimir.
Then tonight, there's actual crimes and actual felonies being committed, well, we know Hillary Clinton. The evidence is overwhelming and incontrovertible as it relates to her email server. Democrats, the Destroy Trump media, for months, well, they've accused President Trump of breaking the law without any evidence, without any proof. Now, meanwhile, we have evidence of real crimes, and it's right in front of their faces and has been for a long time. Hillary Clinton broke the law by mishandling top secret, classified special access program information on her email server that she put in a mom and pop shop bathroom closet. James Comey said Clinton was, quote, extremely careless, essentially that's the same thing as what the law calls for, gross negligence. And then, of course, you have obstruction of justice. Democrats, they've been claiming, well, President Trump tried to interfere in the Russia investigation, which once again, no proof, none. And as we now found out, the real obstructor of justice appears to be the former Attorney General, Loretta Lynch. Her actions have become such a problem that now a group of bipartisan senators announced late last week they are now going to do their job and investigate the former Obama Attorney General for potentially influencing the investigation into Hillary Clinton's email server. And by the way, here's why. We know last summer, Lynch met on a tarmac. Remember how inappropriate that meeting for 40 minutes with Bill Clinton was, just days before former FBI Director James Comey announced that he was giving Hillary a free pass after basically 13 minutes of a stinging indictment. And while testifying before Congress, Comey also revealed that Lynch told him to call the investigation a matter, which, by the way, is how Clinton's own campaign wanted it referred to. And finally, remember Circa News, they broke the massive story a couple of weeks ago about how it was James Comey who confronted Lynch over potentially putting the entire kibosh on any Clinton indictment. In other words, the fix was in. This Lynch scandal, by the way, is now getting so bad that even Democrats are admitting this is now a problem, which we've been telling you about for a long time. Lynch now needs to be put under oath to testify. Why? Because you, the American people, deserve to know the truth. And as for the real Russia conspiracy, it doesn't have anything to do with President Trump. It now deals with this important information that we know, the Uranium One deal. In other words, Secretary of State, then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. Remember, she signed off on giving 20% of America's uranium, the foundational material for nuclear weapons, to Vladimir Putin and the Russians. By the way, a lot of people involved in that deal, they were kicking back huge millions of dollars to the Clinton Foundation. And her husband was doubling his speaking fees in Moscow. Now, Democrats, the Destroy Trump media, you want to talk about collusion? Let's have the conversation. Let's do it. Because the real collusion going on is between the disgruntled former FBI director, James Comey, also the special counsel, Robert Mueller. Comey admitted that the reason he had a friend leak the memo to the New York Times is he wanted a special counsel. And guess what? Mueller, his BFF, was appointed. And Comey and Mueller's relationship is a massive conflict of interest. Then on top of that, members of Mueller's investigative team, let's see, they've donated huge bucks to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. By the way, Mueller is even so corrupt, he went as far as to actually hire one of the lawyers that has done legal work for the Clinton Foundation to prevent you, the public, from getting Freedom of Information Act requests. And by the way, help defend in this particular case. All of these reasons are exactly why Mueller needs to step down, resign. The special counsel witch hunt ended, and by the way, end also the politically motivated so-called investigation once and for all. Also tonight, we have an explosive report from the New York Post. Here's the headline, quote, sketchy firm behind Trump's dossier is stalling investigators. And the Post explains that the firm behind the dossier, which is called Fusion GPS, they're refusing to respond to requests from the Senate Judiciary Committee about that fake document, which has helped fuel and even begin the phony Russia conspiracy theories. And the congressional sources tell the Post that a firm has a pro-Hillary Clinton, anti-Trump agenda. Oh, interesting. Remember, that's the dossier that talked about Trump at a Ritz-Carlton in Moscow with two prostitutes urinating on his bed? There's also this fact that, according to reports, the FBI, James Comey at the time, offered to pay the person who created the fake dossier $50,000. Now, the FBI has previously told Fox News that it denied making any payments. Now, the Trump-Russia collusion investigation has been turned now completely on its head We shouldn't be surprised if Democrats, if they start now, well, maybe we ought to let this all come to an end, because now they've opened the door for their own investigations and real trouble. We call it the boomerang effect. Joining us now, author of the #1 New York Times bestselling book, Understanding Trump, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor, Newt Gingrich. Let's start with Comey wanting to pay the guy that came up with the phony dossier. Let's start there. 50 grand.
Yeah. Look, you can't make this stuff up. I mean,
you can't.
You can't make it up. And there are two parts to it. One is how much of it's bad, and the other is how bad they are at being bad. I mean, you'd think if they're going to do this kind of stuff, they'd be subtle, they'd be clever. I mean, this is stupid. I mean, here's the FBI director being stupid. It's not complicated. Here's Hillary Clinton being stupid. I mean, talk about a stupid party. I know the donkey was the original symbol of the Democratic Party, but this is really down at a point of embarrassment. And I will say, on behalf of Adam Schiff and on behalf of Senator Feinstein, I'm very proud as Democrats, because I know it was a risk, that both of them came out and said, we have to investigate Loretta Lynch and find out what she's doing. And, of course, all this is happening exactly as you thought it would. Now we're beginning to turn the corner. You didn't, by the way, get in a totally separate story about Bernie Sanders and his wife also now lawyering
we
up
got
a little
that
bit
too.
On a different problem.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, all this stuff is coming down the road.
But
and if I were Trump, and go ahead.
All right, Hillary, we know
if I
the
were
evidence.
Trump,
We know.
I would be looking down, going. I would be thinking, all right, you guys, you had 6 months of coming at me. You couldn't do it. You couldn't prove anything. And now you're about to just wreck yourself on all this stuff. And in addition to being pretty happy with the Supreme Court, he ought to be pretty happy with the way these things are turning around in a way that is astonishing.
You know, Mr. Speaker, I kind of feel in many ways we've been, and you've been included in this, and you've been an enormous help with great analysis. We've almost been a sole voice here of sanity in the media. And we pointed out, the evidence overwhelming, incontrovertible. We saw a problem with the tarmac and Loretta Lynch and investigation versus mission, and then the circus story. And then we saw the unhealthy conflicts with Comey and Mueller. Let's start with Comey and Mueller. Does this investigation now need to be wrapped up? And how does he justify hiring the biggest donors to the Democrats and also Hillary's lawyer?
Look, I think that the House and Senate Judiciary Committees should bring Mueller in, not to get into the details of the investigation, but to get into the details of who he's hiring, why he's hiring them. Has he considered a single pro-Trump lawyer? I mean, this is one of the most...
Not one.
Again,
but I've
it's
seen.
part of the same pattern. These guys, there is no way you can look at the people Mueller has hired, look at where they came from, and apparently the day Rosenstein said, oh, well, maybe they gave some money to the Democrats, but that doesn't mean they're biased. Give me a break. Every single one of them. I mean, the top 5 lawyers he brought in are all professional Democrats. One of them actually worked for the Clinton Foundation. Why would any reasonable person have any faith in this kind of a team?
Mr. Speaker, is it now time, because the Democrats have pushed so hard, and we know I have no doubt Hillary committed felonies. Now that they pushed so hard, if we believe in justice and equal justice under the law, doesn't she now need to be fully and completely investigated, both on the foundation pay-to-play and on the email server, where we know, and Comey pretty much himself admitted she committed felonies?
Well, there are reports that the State Department now is actively looking at taking away her security clearances, which would be a pretty big sign of guilt. Well, look, here's what I honestly believe. I really think that the new director of the FBI should look at all of the evidence and should follow it where it leads. I don't want a vendetta against Hillary Clinton, but I also don't want, you know, if we're going to talk about Russian influence, like you, I want to know about all the different parts that were commingled between John Podesta's brother, who's an agent, the Clinton Foundation, the uranium deal. I mean, all these different pieces, the $500,000 to Bill Clinton.
Then this is the most important.
There ought to be some public accounting.
What about what
Well,
we
there ought to be some
learned that
public accounting of this.
Obama knew in August of 2016 and chose to do nothing because he thought he didn't want to rock the boat
there's no
that Hillary
question.
had this.
There is no question that the Congress should call the former president in to testify under oath, to explain what he was doing and why he was doing it. There's no question that they should build the case from the ground up. Who was doing the investigating? Who was reporting to the president? Who did it go through? What were the meetings like where they decided not to pursue it? I mean, talk about an extraordinary failure of national security.
But doesn't it seem,
astonishing
sir,
that after all of these months of rumors, it's him?
Exactly. Doesn't it seem that the only reason that he did nothing was for political reasons, because he knew that she was on a path to victory, which
I think because you and I are both concerned for the country,
absolutely.
we should simply say that the Congress should ask him that question. What was your? I mean, literally, I think that President Obama should come and testify. Where did you learn about it?
Under oath.
Who did you learn about it from? Who was in the room with you when you made the decision? What was their advice? And what was your reasoning? For months, you're talking now about what, August, September, October, November? And then he goes quiet when all of a sudden we're talking about the Russian thing, and he's known about it for 5 months? And he lets it hang out there as though it's brand new? It is.
All right, sir.